London is not just some city. Its spirit stands outside of time. Certain places have influenced its citizens. It is not only a setting, but a presence, a character in various films, novels, and poems. My name is Philip Röttgers, and I search for London's spirit. I think there are two particular ways to explore the powerful and mysterious place that is London: through literature and through walking. Follow me into a secret world. Follow me to London beyond time and place. In this series, I will explore its spirit by walking the city and talking to London enthusiasts. I invite you to join me. Together, we will discover London beyond time and place. This is Talks Beyond Time and Place. Hello everybody to Talks Beyond Time and Place. My name is Philip Röttgers and my guest today is Siwan of A Peculiar London. So welcome and thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me, Philip, or Phil, do you prefer?
You can also call me Phil, that's fine, yeah.
Fine, I'll go with Phil. Thanks for having me, Phil. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for being my guest. It's an honor to have you. And so yeah, let's go with Shu and Phil. So that's easier for both of us and for most of our listeners and viewers, I think. So
Great.
Peculiar London, I'm going to explain it a little bit, is invites people to explore London with them, whether you are a local or just passing through. Their tours give you a different insight into London's vibrant and colorful heritage. And if I'm correct, on April 16th, you're going to start your tours again with Dark Side of Docklands, an event in Wapping, which we're going to talk about also. But maybe we can start, Shu, with you telling us a bit about you and Peculiar London.
We're a theatrical tour company, so we do walking tours, but we kind of also include an immersive theatre angle usually, and generally a pub or two along the way. We like to create an informal atmosphere, and we like to kind of try to find the bits of London's history that the sort of official tours generally don't cover, the sort of more quirky, more niche bits, if you like.
Yeah. So how many people are part of Peculiar London?
There's 6 of us altogether, it's a nice number, and I think everybody who is involved is like genuinely really passionate about London history. It's good to have a mix as well, because you get people who are interested in certain things, or come up with ideas that maybe like I wouldn't have thought of myself. So no, it's really nice to have that, and a good crew who are all really, really dedicated.
I think I never had, unfortunately, I never had the opportunity to participate in one of your tours, but I will in the future.
Never.
But
the world's reopening.
Sorry?
I said the world is reopening,
yes,
so never.
Yes, so it's possible. I think it's possible. Maybe even this year. We'll see. So, but you're going to start soon. So, so how does a Peculiar London event look like? What can we expect from an event by Peculiar London?
So, as I was saying, we kind of go for an informal atmosphere, but lots of interesting facts, hopefully. As I said, in pre-COVID times, we used to try and include a pub or two, but sadly that's not the case at the moment, but we'll see how things go. Immersive theatre angle, so we try to find something about the subject that we're discussing that we can bring to life. And lots of silliness as well. We like to make you laugh, hopefully.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So so how and when did you start with Peculiar London? Where did the fascination for London's history begin, maybe, and how did you start with Peculiar London?
Oh god, two separate questions. Okay, so my fascination with London history, I guess. So I moved to London in 2008, and I moved to a place called Muswell Hill, which is a very sort of quiet suburban neighborhood. And I got a job as a care assistant working at an old people's home, and old people love to tell stories. Old people are great for that.
That's true.
And you know, they tell me things like, you know, people forget how many bombs fell on London during the war. You know, like if you're walking down a street and it's mostly Victorian terraces, but then in the middle there's a block of flats, that's because a bomb fell on it. So I was like, oh right, okay. So then that adds a whole new like level of interest to any street you're walking down. You see it in a completely different way. But I think the thing that really got me interested in the sort of history of London was one day this little old lady sort of said to me, so where do you live, dear? I said, well, at that time I lived on a street called Cranley Gardens. And she went, Boiled Head Road. I was, what? Anyway, out the street that I lived on was where the serial killer Dennis Nielsen used to live in the 80s. I don't know if you've heard of him. There was a show on Netflix about him recently. So he used to lure young men back to his flat, and then he would like murder them and cut up the bodies and boil them and pour them down the drains. And yeah, it turned out I lived on the same street, and like obviously there's not a blue plaque up commemorating that fact.
I wonder why.
So, I know, but it just kind of like, it showed me that even like this very kind of quiet, seemingly boring neighborhood had like all this insane history that was just out there waiting to be discovered.
Yes, you're right. Yeah. I think you're right. And that's where the idea for Peculiar London came from?
The idea for Peculiar London came shortly after I started volunteering at Highgate Cemetery.
Oh,
which incredibly, as I'm sure you know, I know you've mentioned it in your book, I think, has a huge amount of things to explore, and that got me thinking with another friend that perhaps we could do something for Halloween, because there's so many interesting tales around that neighborhood. And so the Halloween tour that we do was kind of the first one, and the rest of it kind of grew from there.
Yeah.
That was in 2015, and here we are now.
Here we are now. Here you are now. Yeah. Can you move your tablet a bit lower, because I mean, it's okay for me, but when
okay?
Yeah, maybe that's better. We can see you more. We can see more of you. That's that way. That's better. that's better.
Perfect.
Okay, so yeah. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
I was waiting for you.
Great. So yeah, I of course I read about the Halloween tour. I think it's in Hampstead, right? That you do every year.
It is. It's so in the pre-COVID days, we used to do a route that was either Highgate to Hampstead or Hampstead to Highgate, and we would sort of stop off at a few supposedly haunted pubs along the way, and we'd have a bit of history, and we'd have a few kind of like spooky things happening as well. But sadly, COVID has kind of put a bit of a halt on that. We did manage to do the tour last year, but obviously we had to change the format quite a lot. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we will be back to pub this year, but we just have to wait and see how that plays out.
That's right. Yeah. Well, yeah, as you say, fingers crossed. I'd love to see that. Maybe I'll be there over.
Well, I
Halloween.
mean, I'm sure hopefully by Halloween things will be back to.
I think there's a slight possibility that we have.
We hope.
Yeah, we do, and we hope that you can include the pubs then, that they are open, and but I think it will work. Yeah. So what was the most surprising fact or story that you've learned during your research, basically, when you prepared some tours and
I think my favorite sort of weird little story that I discovered was there's a street in Farringdon called Ely Place, which is technically part of Cambridge. It's quite a weird little story. So it was bought by the bishops of Ely, which is a sort of market town in Cambridgeshire, and they decided that their new purchase was part of Cambridge, and therefore no London authorities could enter it without permission. And this was true right up until the 1960s. There's a wonderful little pub in there called the Mitre, which used to have to apply for its alcohol license from Cambridge, but also it meant that for a long time criminals who'd committed crimes would then go and hide there because the police couldn't go in and dig them out. They'd have to ask permission from the Cambridge police force to be allowed to enter. So it's a crazy little place to go and visit. You still can. It still has its own little guard tower as well, which is quite interesting.
I'll try to remember that and visit it the next time. But nowadays it's part of London, or is it still part of Cambridge?
Unfortunately, yes.
Damn. Maybe
right?
if I wanted to commit a crime,
if you want to hug an old lady, unfortunately, yeah, you couldn't hide from the law.
We'll find another street. There's probably some place there.
Of course.
So how do you pick the topics for your tours and for your events? You said there's the Halloween tour, but you do not only that.
It sort of depends. I just kind of trying to think of things myself, asking other people for asking other people for ideas, and then trying to take that and see if there's like an angle that we can bring to life. So I mean, Phil, if what kind of tour would you like to see next time you're in this? This could be your opportunity.
That could be my opportunity. That's a difficult question to, I have to think about it a bit, because I often think, when I was there, I knew what I wanted to do, and then I left, and then I thought, okay, next time I'm going to do that and that and this and this. But right now, from the top of my head, that's a difficult question. Oh. Maybe I'll have an answer by the end of the talk, and then I will let you know.
Well, great, yeah, have a think and get back to me.
I will. Yeah, a personal tour just for me, no. But yeah, maybe I can think of something. We'll see. But yeah, okay. I'll try to think of maybe I'll have an idea. Who knows? So, Shu, you're also here today because, as I mentioned, after a long break due to lockdown, you're starting your Peculiar London tours and events again with Side of Docklands in Wapping, and I think it's on April 16th. So are you excited?
Oh, very excited, but very nervous. We're at that stage now where we're kind of close to the opening, and it's all those like little tweaks and sort of like logistical things that need to be ironed out. So, we're getting there. It's going to be amazing.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think it's going to be amazing. Also because for the people that will join you too, it's going to be one of the first times they can go out and enjoy an event like that. Yeah. So it will be great anyway. You can't do anything wrong, I don't think.
Of course.
I think it's going to be great. So I think it was it Samuel Johnson who said that in order to understand London, one should explore Wapping? So maybe
it.
Yeah, maybe. So
London is. Sorry.
No.
I was just going to say that quote again. It's to explore the full extent of diversity of London. But anyway, he definitely said to explore Wapping.
I'm just going to insert the quote. When people watch the talk, they can read it while we try to remember it. So it's going to be they can read the real thing, the proper thing. So where did the idea for that tour come from? Dark Side of Docklands, which I really like. I really like the idea, and I really like the area. So yeah,
it's a great area. It came about because a friend of mine moved quite close by to Limehouse, and so we were sort of exploring. We went to the Grapes and we went to the Prospect of Whitby, both amazing pubs. And I didn't really know an awful lot about Docklands at the time, but just from sort of like seeing, I was like, wow, okay, this is amazing. I need to know more. And then, my God, it's like that thing about pulling the thread. The more you learn, the more there is to uncover. I was like, this needs to be a tour.
Right.
And yeah. That sort of took us to here.
Did you meet Ian McKellen when you were at the Grapes?
Fortunately not. Next time.
Next time. Yeah. That's what I always thought. Whenever I went there, I thought, Next time he's going to be there.
Next time. I hear he apparently he used to do a pub quiz there, like once a month. So I think the thing to do would be to try and get there for the pub quiz.
That's right. Yeah, I went there when they did the pub quiz one time. I went there late when the quiz was already running. I just went there for a pint, and the pub was full, and I thought, but he was not there.
Oh.
And I remember one of the teams was named Where's Ian? So I thought it was quite appropriate. Yeah. And the prospect of Whitby, of course. So do you include it in your tour?
Sadly, we don't, because of bloody COVID again. So London is still in lockdown at the moment, and the pubs don't reopen until May. So we can't do it for the moment. But hopefully, if we can keep this running, we'd like to tweak it a bit to include the prospect, because it is just a fantastic pub. Right. A lot of character, a lot of history. The staff are great, and you know, they've also got great booze and great food. So we hope to be back there sometime soon.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, I of course I know what you mean. Yeah. But where do you start your tour? Where does it start basically?
So we start by Tower Bridge, and then we kind of wander our way into deepest, darkest Wapping. I'm not going to give too much away. No. You need to come and join us. Right. Tickets on sale at peculiarlondon.com.
Yes, of course I'm going to include it all down here. So yeah.
Thank you.
And of course we're not going to give away too much, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And do you also include, I mean, of course you said you don't go to the prospect of Whitby and because of COVID, but do you include the news behind the prospect?
So we really wanted to, but the thing is the tides are really unpredictable. So if you time it right, there's like a beach that you can go down onto. Unfortunately, in the evenings, the tide is usually up, so all we can really do is peer around the back. But the noose is still there for all to see as a great reminder of what used to go on in
right.
Dock, yeah.
So you do include a bit of the history of Execution Dock and what happened there. I mean, we don't really know the location of Execution Dock, I think, but yeah,
so
one possibility.
Personally, I think it's supposed to be just down the road where the Captain Kidd pub is, supposedly, but nobody knows for sure. So that's my best guess.
So, but you include the story a bit of the executions and maybe of Captain Kidd also.
We definitely include. Well, in fact, me and James, who is the narrator for Docklands, we're currently arguing at the moment about how much of the Kidd story to include, because it is just, well, it's a long and multifaceted tale, as I'm sure you know. I guess for those who don't, Captain Kidd was a privateer in the late 1600s, and privateers it was basically like a form of licensed piracy. They were allowed to attack enemy boats in times of war on the sort of understanding that a percentage of any loot that they caught would be given to the government. And well, poor old Captain Kidd got very unlucky. He attacked the wrong boat and it landed him in a whole heap of trouble, and he got completely stitched up. So we do include that tale. Again, I won't go into too much detail because it goes on, and it could be a whole tour or a whole lecture just in itself. I think it's one you could probably cover quite nicely in one of your talks, I would have thought.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, as you said, we don't want to give away too much because people will have to say, "Oh, I'm going to join this tour. I want to know how they will include the story." And yeah, do you also include a bit of the history of the Thames Police, which I think predated the River Police, predated the Metropolitan Police?
That's absolutely true. Yes, we do. They get a mention, definitely. One little fact I love about the Thames Police is when they first started, they had rowing boats. They were chasing after criminals in rowing boats, which I just think is hilarious.
Yes, it is. Yeah, you're right. Yes, I read that too, and I thought, oh, this is yeah. But yeah, they are also part of Wapping and part of Wapping history. And yeah, you already said you can't include the pubs probably that way that you did, but maybe you passed them on your route. I don't want to know because people will have to see. But do you also? I think I can ask this. Do you also include the town of Ramsgate, the famous pub, with its connection to Judge Jeffreys and Captain Bligh of William Bligh, right? Of the Bounty.
So Judge Jeffreys gets a mention. Town of Ramsgate and Captain Bligh not well. Okay, Judge Jeffreys we include quite a bit of. Town of Ramsgate and Captain Bligh not so much, simply because there is just so much history around that area, and trying to condense it into like an hour and a half, it's just, you have to be a bit brutal and work out what you're going to sort of add and what you're going to cut, and sadly they didn't really make the cut, I'm afraid.
But yeah, that's fine, and that's the thing, as you say, you have to choose which parts of history you tell and which parts you leave out. So are you also going to play a character? Are you going to dress up?
I'm playing quite a few characters. Yeah, I'm playing quite a few characters. I think I'm playing a prostitute, a gay pirate, and Isambard Kingdom Brunel. So
oh, he's included also.
He is, yes.
Yeah, great.
Yes.
Oh, I would love to see you in that outfit.
Stop.
Okay, but
Which one?
but yeah, I like the combination. If Brunel knew that he was gonna be played one day by someone who also played a prostitute at the same time, or around the same.
I wonder what he'd think.
Who knows? Who knows? Maybe he would be convinced and join your tour and say, "Oh, this is a great one. They do it very well." And yeah,
of course he would.
Yeah, I think so too. So where does the tour stop? Maybe we can also say a bit about that. Or is it a secret so people won't know?
It's really a secret. So we stopped by the Turk's Head pub, which is I'll give away a little bit. So the Turk's Head pub is where the prisoners who were facing hanging at Execution Dock used to be taken to have a last drink before they met their maker. So for that, it's a really great finishing point.
That's true.
And very atmospheric. And we're also very much hoping that once the world reopens, we will be able to take people inside. But again, we'll see.
Yes. Well, I mean, what your guests don't know is that they will also be sent away to Execution Dock after the tour is finished. But they won't.
Give it away.
I didn't want to give away the surprise. So it's a peculiar way to finish this tour, but that's what you get when you book a tour with Peculiar London. So yeah. So which other tours and events do you offer, or have you planned maybe also in the current situation?
Well, at the moment we are, because last year was really difficult for us, so we're really just testing the waters at the moment. We're just going to start with this one and see what happens, and hopefully we will be running a few more events through the summer, but it's kind of TBC at the moment. One thing I can definitely tell you though is we will be doing Halloween in some form or other.
Great, yeah.
But we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can't really plan anything right now. That's the thing. But yeah, as you said, fingers crossed. Maybe it will all work out, and there's going to be plenty of tours. So are there still any more maybe places that you want to research, or where you say we're going to have to do a tour there or there, but we don't know how to
always there's the great thing about London is never finished exploring it. There's always something new to see, and you know, even if you think you know an area, there's always something else you can find out about it. So there's various sort of projects on the back burner and various things that we'll be coming to later. But no, that's one thing about London, you're never finished. You've never run out of things to see.
That's right, yeah. And yeah, as you say, that's the good thing. That's the great thing. You'll never get tired of London, which I think is also by Samuel
Johnson quote, isn't it? If a man is tired of London, he's tired of life.
Yeah, right, yeah. I think the quote goes on, but I forgot how it goes on. But again, I'm just gonna insert it here.
That's the important bit. So.
Yeah, you're right. That's the important bit.
Yeah.
That's the bit that's important for us that we will remember. So, do you have a favorite place in London? Is there anything like a favorite place in London?
I'm afraid my favorite place in London is that the area I live in. I live in Hampstead. I've lived in Hampstead since 2017, and I'm still discovering things about it. It's, I don't know, people who live here say we live in the best bit, which I used to think was incredibly arrogant, but then I moved here and I'm afraid I agree. Yeah, it would take a lot to get me to move. It's got everything. It's got the heath. It's got a lot of history. Yeah, it's a great place to be. If anyone visits London, I would recommend come and check it out.
Yeah, it is a beautiful place, and it really feels you a bit different. I mean, every part of London feels different compared to another part, but when you're in Hampstead, you think this is a bit special, you know, but not in a negative way, but very beautiful, very, I don't know, we're up here in this beautiful place.
We're up here, everyone else is down there.
Right.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
yeah. But still, I mean, it's connected to London. Yeah, I think you're right. I understand what you mean. I definitely do. Yeah, and I think you probably have some celebrities as neighbors.
Oh, right. So
Maybe
Ricky Gervais. I see Ricky Gervais quite a lot around the place. Oh God, well. I don't talk to him, but I don't know how well you know his stuff. He did this whole routine where he goes on and on about, if I had a kid, he'd be a little Hampstead cunt. And so my housemate saw him in Tesco's and he just walked past and my housemate was like, "You little Hampstead cunt." I was like,
he was probably like, "Oh, I've heard it so often."
But I thought it was funny.
Yeah, it is. Maybe you should invite him to one of the tours.
Maybe we should.
Maybe you should include him. But oh, did I give away a secret? I'm sorry.
But don't tell him.
He's also part. He's already part of the tour.
This tour, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm gonna have to visit you to just see Ricky Gervais. But yeah, okay.
There we go.
Nah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. But I often think, when you walk in London, through a street or through a certain area, you sometimes you don't really know who you just crossed, who you just passed by without, maybe it was someone famous. And sometimes you see them and you think, okay, they also just live here, which is also quite funny. Yeah. But so yeah, I just thought, what was the question? Hampstead. So it's Hampstead. That's the famous place. Yeah. Yeah. So and has maybe dealing with London and its history changed a bit of your view of the city in comparison from before, maybe before everything?
Very, very much so. I guess if you, I suppose, kind of researching an area makes you feel a bit more connected with it. Maybe.
Yeah.
Like it just stops being random streets when you kind of learn things about it. Oh, okay, didn't know that. Yeah, you definitely feel more of a connection with the place, I think. I don't know if you get that as well.
Yeah, that's right. I recently had this funny, no, not funny, but I had this discussion with two of my guests, which is, sometimes you feel connected to a place just, from you don't know why, you don't know the history, but just from you feel it basically. And then sometimes when you get to know the history of a place, you think, oh, I don't know, this fits my personal story, or I can relate to that. And then you think, oh, so it made sense, or it makes sense that I feel connected to this place. And I think we sometimes wondered, the guests and I, we wondered, so if you don't know the story or the history of a place, and of which you say you love it, would you still feel anything there? But I think you would. I think you feel connected to certain places sometimes without knowing why. And when you find out more about this place, you think, oh yeah, of course, this makes perfect sense. Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing.
World works in mysterious ways.
It does, definitely, yeah. So I often finish my talks with this final question, which is sometimes a bit difficult to answer, but maybe you can, maybe you can't. I often ask my guests, can you name 3 Londoners that you would love to have dinner or a drink with from throughout history?
Go for it. Okay, so my number one person would be Sir Joseph Bazalgette. He was the guy that he's like basically the unsung hero of London. He was the guy that built the sewers. So London in the 1850s was basically drowning in its own shit, not to put too fine a point on it. And Bazalgette was an engineer, and he rocked up and he was like, I can fix this. So he single-handedly designed 83 miles worth of sewage pipes. And obviously they had no computers, nothing like that in those days. He did it using like bits of string. Sorry, if you told me design a sewage system with bits of string, I wouldn't even know where to start. But he did it. And not only that, he did it so successfully that he managed to eradicate all waterborne diseases. At that time, people would be dropping like flies of cholera, typhoid, etc., and actually make the London tap water drinkable. And he did it so well that we're still using his sewage system to this day. It hasn't packed up yet, and this is 150 years later. So, like, hats off to the guy. I would love to meet him. My second choice would be Samuel Johnson. We've been quoting all evening. Samuel Johnson, of course, the guy that invented the dictionary, but quite a character. He had some kind of Tourette syndrome. I don't know if you know that. So if you see him in pictures, he's got a hand like that. It's like that. That's what he used to do to control his tics. That kind of stopped him from, swearing at people or whatever. Great wit, great one for the quotes.
Oh yes.
Yeah, of course. He was originally a school teacher, ran off with the mother of one of his pupils. Interesting.
Why not?
Why not, indeed, exactly. And then, yes, after she died and he sort of fell into a depression, he kind of just used to fill his house up with kind of random waifs and strays to kind of have people around him. So I imagine if you went to visit him, you'd meet some characters.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's a good choice. Yeah,
I think so. And then I think my final one would be Boris Johnson, our current Prime Minister. Just to get the gossip. I mean, just to find out like who he shagged and where.
Who knows? Maybe you get the opportunity to meet him one day. It's not entirely impossible.
Well, Boris, if you're listening.
Maybe he does. Maybe.
Maybe.
I read an interview once with Ian McKellen when he took over the grapes, and he said he mentioned some of the famous people that came to visit the pub since he was one of the owners, and he said, Sting came by for a pint, and various people came by, and one day Boris Johnson came to have a pint there, but we don't want him to be a regular. So, but there was.
Yeah, I don't think you meet him more than once. Once would be fine.
Yeah, I think so too. But I agree, it would be a very interesting meeting indeed. I think if you like him or not, I think it would be quite funny. It would be quite entertaining to just talk to him and meet him. Yeah. So that's an interesting choice.
Who'd be on your hit list? Who'd be on your hit list? Who would you want to have?
Well, the first one is you, but we've also already did that virtually. Now that's a good question. I often think about if someone asked me this question, who I would pick. I think someone that I would really like to meet and have a drink with is from quite recent history, basically. But it's Sir Christopher Lee. I would have loved to meet him. I would have probably
That's great.
would have been very very. this is Sir Christopher Lee, but,
Yeah.
but he's one.
Yeah.
I would have loved to meet him. Who else? Who else? Let me think. I mean, everyone that I'm asking, most of the people, they say someone like Shakespeare or Dickens, which I think is nice, but they too obvious sometimes. I think
Sure. Yes, I'm sure Dickens would be interesting, but he's been done to death.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So who else? Who else? Oh, I'm gonna have to think about that. Maybe I should write that down because I never really thought about it up until the end. It's very difficult, you know. As you know, one of my starting points into London history was, of course, the Ripper murders, and nowadays I'm a bit critical about the story also. But still, I would have loved to meet maybe one of the investigators to just maybe.
That is a very good shout. Yeah, to meet one of the
maybe Inspector Edmund Reed and someone like that, and just talk to him about it. I would also love to take a walk around the area with one of them, just to see the area and that, during that time.
See it as it was and sort of understand a bit more why.
Right. Yeah. So it's because it's basically it's about the it's not about the man who about this murderer. What he did was terrible. It's more about the area, the people, the living conditions. So that's what I find interesting. So maybe one of them, and I need a third one. Oh no, you're the third one. So that's fine. So
go. No, good choices. Good choices.
I know. So I think I would go with these three. But I also like the idea of Boris Johnson. Maybe we should get.
Okay, look, if we manage to if either of us manages to meet Boris Johnson, then we'll bring the other one along.
Oh yes, we will. We will. That's a deal. Yeah.
Great.
I'm gonna write some emails now, but.
Boris.
Yeah, that would be okay. Yeah, let's do that. That would be hilarious. I think that would be great. Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shu. It was great to have you here today. And of course, I'm going to put a link to Peculiar London and to Dark Side of Docklands into the description. And also, your tour will take place on the 16th of April. I think, are there any more dates, or is this the only one?
So we're doing a kind of soft opening. We're doing the sort of weekends from the 16th of April to the first weekend of May. And then we'll see what happens from there. Hopefully by that point, as I say, the world will have reopened, but we're just kind of keeping it.
So as I said, thank you very much for being my guest, and all of our viewers and listeners, go and get and participate in the Dark Side of Docklands.
Yeah, come Dark Side of Docklands.
Meet
very
this,
much hope you
wrong
from
side.
the 6th. Pardon?
No, I just wanted to point at you, and I realized I was just meet this lovely lady, meet this wonderful lady and her friends, and it's going to be a tour that you will never forget. So thank you very much, Shu.
Thanks again, Phil. It's been a pleasure.